Uh, yeah, there, that's right. So,
and I just click leave meeting and run.
Yeah, just leave meeting, goodbye, never to be seen again. Okay, so I'll bring us after, but after we go live on Facebook, then I also put it up on YouTube. And then people can watch it, and I mean, either place. It's kind of easier to, I guess, access it on YouTube, but it's always fun to have a record of it there. All right, so let's see, we are live. Oh, so we have a suggestion.
Great.
I asked for suggestions at different times. Sometimes it's far out, sometimes it's not. And I like to play with when. And Bob Miret gave us a suggestion of mac and cheese. So our suggestion is mac and cheese. Thank you, Bob Miret.
It's what I ordered. It's not necessarily what I wanted. It's what I ordered.
Why? How come you didn't order what you wanted?
I panicked. She came up. I wasn't ready. I said mac and cheese. I
knew it. I should have gone with my instinct. I was gonna say we're not quite ready, and then it's like, I think you thought you'd have more time because you're like, hey, I'll decide. And then right. I knew right away. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna get the lentil soup, like no question about it. And then it was like,
I wish I had that sort of like gut, like that sort of like, embrace your instinct. It's just that's just not who I am.
Do you want to change your order?
I mean,
I'm gonna go ask her.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, so she put the order in already?
Yeah, it's fine.
I can, if you want to get something else, don't worry about, like, we could have macaroni and cheese for the table.
Sure, it's fine. Honestly, I could have just asked her for a minute, and I didn't. And I'm gonna live with my choice, and it's gonna be great. I'm gonna make it great.
What did you want? Like, what if you could get anything, what would you want?
If I'm being honest, it was overwhelming, the menu.
It's big.
It's big. Yeah. Like, we don't just have some specials, and then that
What's the theme? What is the tip? Because they have lentils, they have mac and cheese, they have fajitas.
Right. And then there's jerk chicken. It's too much. It's too much. And then it's called Cheesecake Factory. Like, what is it? Do you specialize in that? Or is it everything? It's too much. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm so happy to be here. And I'm going to let it go because I'm sure it's going to be delicious.
God, you're bigger than I am, because I can't let something go.
I'm going to try. When it shows up, I may react differently. No, oh no. Please don't. Honestly, please don't.
Hi, was there a problem with your order?
Oh, no.
Okay. She came by.
I panicked.
Again?
I got really anxious, and I just said I sent her away. I panicked, and I apologize. That was so nice. That was so nice what you did.
Okay, I mean, I feel like I don't want to force you to change your order, but I feel like
I'm getting hives. I'm so sorry.
That's natural. No, that's natural. Yeah, when you get nervous, it's a reaction. It's a physiological reaction of the body. Yeah.
I feel like my body is overreacting to this situation. It's just mac and cheese. You're being great, by the way.
Thank you. You're very red right now. You're very red.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just I'm a combination of embarrassed for me, and
Oh.
also feeling badly for her because she's so great, and I don't want her to feel bad. I carried a lot into this dinner, and I apologize.
Why?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I'm like genuinely excited to be here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I just got overwhelmed. Not by you, you're great. Not by, like, the booth is lovely. The place is clean, it's just, it was too many choices.
Yeah.
Just too many choices.
There's a lot. I mean, I'll be honest, when I sat down, I was like, this will be an easy decision. It's
And
just,
then you just went lentils, like that.
I was like, oh, and I'll tell you why, because usually I'm like, I want to pick the perfect thing. And
Yeah.
when I left my house today, before I got you, I was like, I'm just going to go for, I'm going to try first instinct, whatever that first thing is. And I'm going to go with it. But I'm going to share a secret with you. I've never had lentil soup. I'm not even sure what's in it. I know, I mean, obviously lentils, but I don't know if there are onions in the soup. I have an allergy to onions and I want to ask. So I just ordered, and then I was like, if you second guess this decision, I've been listening for some reason, I've been listening to a podcast and they're like, you don't show weakness, go with your gut. Yeah, it's not working out well for me.
Are you equating indecision about soup with weakness? Like, that is like, they didn't mention that specifically, I assume.
They didn't mention that specifically, but they said you have to believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, therefore you're weak. And they went on this whole it was a 40-minute podcast episode. I'll be honest, I started listening to it at twice the speed because I'm like, I can't listen to it.
Yeah.
I didn't like most of it. Most of it I didn't agree with, but this one thing.
But that one thing.
It's like that one nugget you pull out.
Yeah. Well, they say, isn't that the thing that resonates with you is the thing you already believed. So like on some level, you already were like, I should just be more confident in my choices.
Well, that's how this dinner came to be, I'm like, oh, we should just go out. We should just go to dinner. That was it. And I didn't think about it too much. If I thought about it too much, I probably would have really complicated it. Yeah. And that's not what I needed. And the same thing here. I looked at that menu and I had a mini panic attack. That's why I went to the bathroom right away. I do like to clean my hands, but I went to the bathroom because I was hyperventilating. I'm like, there's a lot. And then I'm like, no, believe in yourself. What's the first thing? And you know what? I talked to the mirror in the bathroom. Like, it was like a movie. I was like, just try it. Whatever it is, try it. Worst case, you're not going to have to finish it. Just first thing when you get back, the first you see, and I open it up. It's like, those puzzles where it's like, what are the first three words you see in the puzzle?
Yes.
And then like power. Yeah.
That's your year.
Yeah. This is like first thing you look at when you look at the menu, and I open it up. I saw the lentil soup. I'm like, that's what I'm going to get. End of story.
You know what's interesting? When we sat down, I immediately went to the bathroom as well, wash my hands, obviously, COVID, all of that. And then I was doing, the only affirmation I was doing in the mirror was don't get mac and cheese.
Really?
And you know how sometimes, like, when you plant that, it's like the only thing you can think about? Purple
elephant.
Right. So
don't think purple elephant, and then that's the only, because your brain's holding on to the thing, not the not thing. So it's like, don't order mac and cheese. Your brain's like, you should get mac and cheese. That's what your brain hears.
Yep. And so I panicked.
And then she came, and you're okay. You looked excited, but it really was a look of sheer terror when she came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was masking a lot in that moment. And then when she came back, again, had the opportunity, could have completely reset this.
Well, could have, would have, right?
Right. I don't want you to think that this is like, I mean, I guess it is sort of representative of who I am as a person, but I don't want you to think that I'm only here because I said to myself in the mirror, don't go to dinner. And then somehow I wound up here.
Oh, okay. Well,
Did you not think that?
I didn't, but now now I'm thinking it. Now I'm like, well, I wasn't thinking that before, but I could see the correlation.
Well,
I feel like you're a nice enough person that you would have said, oh, you would have come up with an excuse, and it would have been that you didn't want to come. Like, I don't think you would have said, I don't want to go, but I think you would have come up with an excuse and not gone. So I take it that you want to be here.
I do want to be here. I also want to explore that a little bit.
Okay.
The idea that a nice person would lie to you and say, I can't come to dinner because I'm taking a piñata class. Which, by the way, I am.
That is something I would love to take as well. I have a niece and nephew, twins, who their birthday's coming up, and they're turning 8. I think that would be a wonderful class. So regardless of this, whatever happens tonight, regardless of that, I'd love to talk more about that piñata class.
Yes.
That's a great, I think I'm good with crafts.
It's more theory than I expected, but I'm loving it.
Ooh, I'd like a nice balance. I'd like it to be like 40% theory, 60% practical hands-on application. If it's in the ballpark there.
Yeah, I think you'd like it then.
Oh, yeah, she's got the mac and cheese, and then thank you.
Thank you so much. This looks amazing. Thank you.
It looks great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
This looks great, actually.
Yeah, it does smell. It smells pretty good.
You think there's onions in yours?
I don't. Well, I don't see any, but it's. I mean, there's carrots, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bay leaf. Well, I'm gonna give it a shot. Yeah.
Before you risk your health, I'll just throw out there, we could switch. I'm fine with my mac and cheese. I'm a little worried about you. I know there's no onions in this. Okay, well,
My favorite food is mac and cheese.
Get out.
I don't know why I didn't order it, but it is my favorite. And they have great.
So good here too. It's like cavatappi with like a cheddar sauce. Yeah. This looks good.
Hey, this is really good.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, I didn't know if you were going to say something.
Oh, I mean, I guess eventually. Or maybe not. I'm comfortable with you sitting in silence. So good sign.
Yeah.
It's hot.
Yeah, this is really hot. I can't even eat it yet.
I think I burned my tongue.
You can spit it out. I won't. You want?
I think mac and cheese just causes panic because I panicked. So I think let's blame it on the mac and cheese.
Yeah, I blame a lot of things on mac and cheese.
Yeah. Scene. Yeah. I mean, we could go on and on with that.
That soup would get cold before she ever took a bite.
I honest to God love both those dishes. I love lentil soup and I love mac and cheese.
Yeah, same.
Oh, there's something about that kind of warm comfort food.
Yeah.
And it is true with Cheesecake Factory. It is intimate, the menus they have. And then you get to the cheesecake menu. The dinner menu and lunch menu is huge. The cheesecake menu is huge too.
Yep. Here's my coping mechanism, my real world coping mechanism for the Cheesecake Factory. The server will come over. They've got 3 menus that they're going to hand you at the same time. Sometimes they're tucked inside.
Yes.
I take one.
That's it.
That's it.
That's brilliant.
It unburdens me of the like unlimited choices, and now I just have like a healthy 27 things to choose from instead of 300.
Well,
and I don't care which one I take either.
Yeah.
It's just random.
There is a certain amount of American restaurant philosophy that says you have to give a bunch. The more the better. You got like, you really shouldn't, a restaurant shouldn't be like known for quantity. It shouldn't be like all you can eat is what attracts us. But because of sometimes financially where people are, it's like, well, that we have to get the most out of this money. And the Schitt's Creek, have you watched Schitt's Creek?
Oh, yes.
So
yep.
I will never not laugh at the menu bit they do. It's just an enormous menu. They never reference it. They never make mention of it. Nope. It just is there. And I laugh so much because it is that moment of like those restaurants where you can get anything. You can get fajitas, you can get lentil soup, mac. Like there's so much you can get in those situations. Like just one menu.
And it's all fine. None of it's great. It's all fine.
It's like
maybe do 10 things well.
Well, it's kind of like improv, right? Where you go, I'm on 10 teams. It's like, well, you're doing okay in 10 styles. Like I guess you're versatile, but you're never really like that group that you're in is crushing it because you're spread so thin and you're like, okay, you do game and you do short form and you do long and you're in a 2-person group, like all that's great, but you're not really excelling or having fun at any of them because you're doing too much.
And you now have no other frame of reference than your other improv shows. So what are you even talking about? Like when you realize that for 3 years, the only thing you've done in your life is improv, like, and 3 is me being conservative. Like, you know, some of us, it's like, oh, 15 years went by and I barely saw anything else because I was doing this for 7 nights a week. Then who are you improvising for other than like other improvisers? And it's not fun anymore.
Well, I went through a period like that where it was like, I'm doing shows or rehearsals every night of the week. Mm-hmm. I lost contact with my friends who will come to your shows in the beginning. And then afterwards, they're like, we can't go to those shows. We can't go to the same amount of shows you play in. Like, we just don't. We enjoy it, but we don't want that to be our thing. And then I remember once looking
That's your thing.
That's your thing. And we love it, but like, let's do another thing. And I was at a party once, I looked around, it was like, there are only other performers. And it was sectioned off in different areas. Like the front room was Second City, IO was middle, comedy, sports, and I went, this has to change. Like I can't only have this in my life. I have to bring other things to the stage. And the shows get mixed up. So you start like thinking you're doing a good callback from a show you did before. And the group's like, we've never done that show.
Yeah, man. We don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, there were definitely days where, you know, because I was also doing like corporate training and school shows. So there were days where it was like 7 shows in a day. And like the last ones would be like at a theater for like a paying audience as opposed to like a corporate training. And some of them were with the same people. So you do end up, you end up calling back a thing from 8:30 in the morning that audience has no frame of reference for, nor would they have cared to begin with, honestly. And the only people laughing are the 2 people that were at the show you were at 8:30 in the morning. And then you're like, oh, I should probably like join a bowling league or something, because this is just anything other than this. Take a piñata class, because that would at least be anything but this.
There should be a requirement though for improvisers to do early morning school shows for elementary students.
Everybody should have to do it. Everybody.
Oh my God. They are the harshest in the best way audience. They're like, they'll say, we're bored. Like in the middle of something, they'll be like, we're bored. It's like, we all are, man. Everyone here is bored. I'm bored too. You're right.
every person who wants to be a professional improviser, which I say that in air quotes because what does that even mean? Everyone should have to do an 8:30 in the morning elementary school show. Everyone should have to do an 8 o'clock in the morning corporate training where they didn't know you were coming because it's a surprise.
Surprise.
Yeah. Oh, they're just the worst.
I think murder mystery. I think you should.
Oh, I've never done one. It's the
it's
one holdout that I wouldn't say it's like it wasn't a moral judgment. It was more like that's not enough pay and it's too far from where I live. But every one of my friends did those. Yeah.
Those are both true. Not enough pay, but there is a sadistic streak in me that want like to go into a dinner in a ballroom and to say in front of a couple hundred people, excuse me, you open the door, you're like, there's been a murder. And 400 heads drop into their salad because they're like, oh no.
Oh no, I hate this.
I hate this. And you're like, don't worry, it's going to be 120 minutes of fun where you're in the show. And they're like, you know, it's like the only thing worse than going in to surprise someone in the show is making them be in the show. And but it taught me what are the skills to survive any of those situations. And so
absolutely
have those moments.
I once did a show where it was part of a frozen food convention.
So far, so good.
So far, it, you know, I think everyone can agree that what you want at the end of a frozen food convention is an improv show with 3 people and no musician.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, also they had no, they told us they had all the like stage and sound equipment and they didn't. So we get there, there's literally like, it's the corner of a room. And they, right before they announced us, they were like, thanks you guys so much for hanging in since so early this morning. And I know we had a late night last night. We just have one more thing before we're going to let you guys go. Also, just so you know, the bar is open in the other room. Here's improv. What are we doing? So like 12 minutes in.
You're keeping them from booze and you always know that wins. Hey, I'm stopping you from drinking.
There was one table that was closest to the stage who felt like they couldn't leave because
yes,
that's rude. So these like sweet, like maybe they were like the spouses of people at the convention, they wouldn't leave. So we're trying to do like day in the life with this old woman who's like, I don't want to be here. We forced her out of her chair to come sit on the stage with us. I mean, nightmare. And we're in the middle of the game and I look over and the woman who hired us is going,
oh
no. Okay, so we step off the stage, she hands us our full check, we walk out of there very happy. And we were having dinner after, like you do, to debrief about what a great thing just happened. And one of my favorite improvisers in the world said, you know what I think? They didn't want us, they didn't need us. What they would have been better off with is like hiring a falconer to just release a falcon into the room. And then people could keep drinking and then just go like, hey, a falcon, and then keep drinking. So every show I've done since has been measured against the bar of, would they have been more entertained by a falcon? No.
I mean, that is such a great comparison. That's the scale from now on.
Yeah. We hear it. So, and it's not really a sale as much as let's assess what's right for you.
Right. And the idea behind it sounds great, but let's look at the logisticals. What is it like? Where are we coming in? Where are we? Like, you can't just give us one microphone because we don't do stand up. So one room where there's 500 people is not going to help. Like, what's the situation here before you walk into it? Because there are those shows that you walk in and it's like, all right.
We shouldn't be here.
We shouldn't be here. But the joy is you're with other people and you're like, okay, I've got these other folks with me. I did a silent auction where we couldn't talk. and so we couldn't talk doing scenes on the stage in a high school gymnasium. And they're like, you can't talk. So we can't get suggestions. We can't use any dialogue. So people are watching us, and it was this group Comedy Sports. So we had softball pants on, we had a jersey on, and they're watching these three people on a stage going, what has happened? What are they doing? Are they cleaning up? Yeah. And we're like, we devolved into like old timey movies. It's like,
sure. What else would you do? That's the right choice. You made the right choice in that moment.
And it was like, you just looked at the people you're on stage with, and without saying a word, you're like, this is going to be a story. This is a story. This is one of those shows that when people have those discussions, you're like, I've got one of those shows. How did you get into improv? What made you take a class and or do your first show, or however you did it? What
Well, I had been a theater kid, a musical theater kid. And I say now that like, probably that's because that was the only outlet to do any kind of performing if you're a kid living in the suburbs. Like there wasn't improv classes for kids when I was a kid. When I was a girl, we didn't have improv. And so like, you know, I would just find out about shows and audition for them. And I went to Emerson College and like did a little, mostly I did sketch comedy there. I created a minor in comedy writing, and like comedy became my thing, and like did stand up and sketch.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
You created a minor?
Yeah. I mean, they let you do that at a lot of schools. It's not like, I didn't like, yeah. So,
but still, that's a pretty huge thing. It was like, I'm gonna, even at that age, to be like, this is what I want to put my degree to. I'm gonna get a minor in comedy. That's great.
Yeah, and my thought in going to Emerson was I was gonna be, I studied radio. I was gonna be like a morning radio DJ that like the you know, the lady that sits in the corner and laughs at the boys when they do
105.9 WCKG in the morning. With Barry and Chris.
What a weekend. Yeah, that was my original goal. That was my original goal.
You were going to be not even starring. You're like, I'm going to be in the corner.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. To give you more context for who I am as a person, Jay, when I was in middle school, you know, I was always a performer. So we had like, I went to the small Catholic school, and they had like a newspaper, and they came to interview me about like what I was going to do when I like was a grown up. And I said I wanted to be a waitress at Second City.
In some regards, you would make more than the ensemble.
Yeah, I had read that Shelley Long had been a waitress at Second City and had been waitressing for that show for so long, and then they had someone who like was sick or something, and so they pulled her. The story I read back then was she was able to jump in because she knew the roles in all the sketches because she had been watching them every night. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. But in my mind, I was like, that's how you get on stage at Second City.
Wow.
You waitress there. Yeah. So cut to 4 years later, I'm like, I'm going to go to college to be a blonde lady in a corner in a windowless room. I don't know. Yeah. So to get back to your original question, I started doing improv then, and then moved out to LA and you know, was going to like write for sitcoms like everyone who graduates from Emerson thinks. And a lot of them do. I don't mean to besmirch Emerson. It's great. It's a great comedy school. LA was not my jam at the time. So I moved back to Boston and became a grown-up and was like working in public relations and had children. And then was like, oh, you know what? Kids are great. You know what else is great? Not being around them for a little bit. So when my youngest was born, I have two kids. When the youngest was a baby, I was like, mommy needs to get out of the house for 3 hours a week. So I signed up for an improv class.
What?
And yeah, after having not performed for like a decade.
Wow. And which school did you sign up for?
So I was like an hour outside of Boston at the time, and there are two main places you can take classes. One is Improv Asylum, one is ImprovBoston. ImprovBoston called me back. So when I had a question.
Oh my God, of course.
Yeah, they were smaller. They were very friendly, literally changed the course of my life. And by the third class, I was like, oh, got it. This is everything I've ever wanted out of life, is being here in this moment with these people. And moved. I ended up getting a divorce, moving to Cambridge, maybe in that order, I don't remember. And like it became my life.
So you had experienced in the corporate world pre taking classes. So then the transition to do corporate work must have been so much easier for you than to try and teach. So, I mean, you know that situation where it's like you're trying to teach someone, hey, don't, and this is a true story for me, don't wear your legalized pot t-shirt coming to this gig because it's not an improv show, it's a corporate gig, and here's what you need to do.
Yes, I'm sure many of the people I worked with would argue that I went too far in that direction and was like, I really feel like we should all like speak the same vernacular, and we should be like, we should look like we could work with them.
Yes.
Like the cooler people that work with them. Like you don't want to show up in like your ripped jeans and you know, and maybe don't reek of weed when you show up. Like whatever you do on your own time, your business, but maybe don't walk in with that, like wafting in with you.
How dare you tell me what to do? It's like, no, we want to work again. We want to
get rehired is the thing. And so I do think it made it easier, like I also worked in as a teacher, like a classroom teacher. And so I think having bringing those backgrounds into improv made me better at both of those jobs, and at being a parent. And also that experience bled completely into how I approached the work of being a professional improviser. Like it is work, and we treat it like work. And if we don't treat it like work, then it's not a product worth buying. And I don't mean, and I think, you know, the reality is that after you do that for years and years and years, it does stop being fun. Like it's not fun anymore.
Especially if it's your thing, if it's your gig or you're in charge.
Yep.
Because you aren't just one of the people playing and doing bits in the back of the van or anything like that. You're someone who's worried about like
driving the van. And you have
driving the van. You're renting the van. You're worried about insurance. You're worried about the running order. You're worried about the client. Like you've got other things you're focused on that take you out of why you are doing it. You're doing it to have fun, and there's a thrill being able to hire friends to do stuff like that, but there's also a side of it that they hopefully don't see as much, which is like, man, I'm worried about running order. They want this content in there. They want to make a connection. It's in this conference. Like there's so many things that go into it that you just don't, that take away from the fun.
Yep. And then you get there and it's always, oh, by the way, we want to change everything about the thing you just spent 2 weeks planning. And like, I don't mean to sound ungrateful, because I loved every moment of being able to create those opportunities for other people, and like getting to pay your friends, like these people who become your family, to do this work. And like, it does impact like the people that are in that conference room for the 2 hours or the 4 days, or the kids that you're performing for at 8:30 in the morning. Like it's all wonderful. For me, like, I just wanted to be back in a place of discovery where like, I just want to be able to like solve this puzzle in a different way. And I want to be able to like find joy in it again. And for me, like the mission of what I do is super important. So like finding ways that improv can like impact people. Yes, like improv for a show where people come and laugh, they need that, and they need that experience, and it's cathartic. And how else can we use improv to like impact change? And so like I just I was very fortunate to be in a place where for many years they let me like look around the world and say, I feel like improv could solve that problem, which is great. And then that sort of led me to the work that I do now at Perkins School for the Blind. So now my full-time gig is teaching improv to kids and adults with visual impairments, and really using it as a tool to like help them tap into their confidence in their own ideas and their voice. And you know, it's a population that a lot of people don't know a lot about, and a lot of people just don't know how to interact with. So being able to like introduce them to improv and help them be a part of like joy and collaboration and all of that. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, isn't that interesting where we start and then end up and you go, I thought my fulfillment would be doing this thing where I'm on TV or movies and you realize like, no, my fulfillment is watching humans get better and get more confident and connect and laugh and bring moments of joy like that. That to me that's where the most fulfilling parts of my day are.
Yeah, and to call back something that I wasn't at but witnessed this morning when I was watching you, the idea that like when we find this work, how that affects what we think about it, how we do it. I think when I was in college doing improv, it was definitely for the yucks, right? Like, ooh, I want the laughs. I crave the laughs. And I think as a sketch writer too, like, and a stand-up comedian, like that's what you're chasing, and you're working so hard to earn it, right? And then what I realized as an adult doing improv is it wasn't about the laughter. At first, it was about the collaboration and just being able to be in a creative space again. Yeah. And then for me, I noticed a fundamental shift where it was still like the collaboration is great and I love that. What I was most excited about was that moment of discovery that you recognize in an audience member's face, whether that's in a show or in a class or at a corporate training or at a school or wherever, where someone suddenly has that look where they're like, what is the magic you're doing?
Yes.
How can I learn how to do it?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
And then I start to sound probably like a cult weirdo, but that was what was exciting for me, is like people realizing I could do that. I think what is that? I want to learn how to do it. And so once you realize like if that's your joy, then maybe I don't need to be literally in a room full of 200 people doing this work. Maybe I can find other applications for it. And I also think maybe that's for those of us who've been able to do things online, maybe I'm just thinking about this now, Jay, maybe it's harder to do this work this way, because if you're doing it for the immediate gratification and the laughter, you're not going to get that here.
Yes.
Whereas if you're doing it for the connection and the discovery and the collaboration, that you can absolutely get here.
Yes.
Yeah.
110,000% absolutely agree with what you say. All of it. And especially the part about this is not for other people when you're doing virtual. Mm-hmm. It's not for an external reward, right?
Yeah.
It's for this. And if you have enough experience performing and you transition here, I think you're pretty aware of if that was in front of an audience, that would probably get a response. That might get a groan. Like you're kind of aware in a sense of like, I think that would, but I was watching a post on Facebook and people are saying like, what's the change because of this? It's like, well, people aren't going for the laughs because the only laughs you're getting are from people who are in the room, whether it's like your partner or you, and there's not an external thing which fools us into thinking that's where we should go. We should go towards that laugh. And instead, you're right. You're making those human connections and it's more intimate. What we're doing now is more intimate because you're also, here's my house.
Right.
Like coming into my space, like you're inviting people into your space, and you're dealing with, I got a dog, I got kids, there's somebody with a leaf blower, I didn't expect that. So you're dealing with all these situations. It's like, can you still focus and can you still find connection? I'm with you. Absolutely 100% you can find that connection still.
Yeah. And I think it also ideally gives us permission to find the joy in this moment, right? And to like just it's not about what's funny, it's about what's fun and meaningful for us right here, right now. And I do think this idea of like we're in each other's homes has unlocked an entirely new sort of dimension for all of us. Like the idea, back in the old days, we could walk off stage and like people would still, depending on the setup of your performance venue, like people could still see you. And, as a fellow player, I know, well, Jay does this bit. So like, I know he's probably going to come back and like, we'll still keep going. And that'll be a hilarious entrance.
His waiter thing, you could say it. He'll do his waiter thing.
There was a moment in, it must have been, was it one of the shows with Margot? It must have been, where you left and then like you're doing a whole bit by yourself to a fake person that isn't there. And the realism of that, because on stage, live in person, we know that's not happening. This isn't your house, right?
Yes.
But the authenticity that you bought yourself by going literally through a door and then talking on the other side of it, which I hope is where you physically were. I know you could just cheat, but it sounded like you were authentically on the other side of it.
It was like a FedEx driver, right?
You were having a debate with the delivery driver and you didn't know if you needed to sign for it. And you're just having this whole like 3-minute deep side conversation with someone who doesn't exist. And in this format, it is so much more believable and authentic and therefore hilarious than any time we could have done that on stage, no matter the venue, right? Yes, I understand like Second City and IO have doors that you can physically open and walk through, right? It's like on their stages. I get that. We still know it's a show.
One of those theaters did have.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's.
I mean, it still has them. They're still physically there.
Well, and you if you do that on a stage, more often than not, somebody in your team is going to jump up and play the other person, which to me, it's like there are times not to show the other person. There are times to like just let that person be interacting with no one and let us fill it in rather than jumping to help out. So that's true.
I mean, for me, the biggest hurdle in doing improv this way is just like shared language, right? So especially when you're working with newer improvisers who may not have a lot of experience on stage or even over Zoom, there's an editing thing that can be a little wonky. And so I've certainly been in a lot of shows where I'm like, all right, I guess that's what we're doing. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't realize. So we should yell edit and then shut off our camera and then turn it back. Like, it just feels like that part is a little clunky. And I wish that more people would just embrace the idea that the same kinds of like scene starts could still happen this way, right? I think when we did the All-Star Jam at VIF, like I could just call a character's name and wouldn't they then know that that's a new scene with them?
But I think that's also with our experience.
Yeah.
And our experience going like, okay, well, I thought we were going to do this. We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And like you call a character's name. I was that character. I'm going to pop in. Like, I'll never forget trying to understand what the form was from a bunch of very experienced performers. We were all trying to get a sense of what exactly the specific type of, and at one point it was just like, all right, I'm just going to go out there. I'm probably going to mess it up. I'll try. I'm not going to try to make it bad, but I definitely am not going to, we aren't speaking the same language. So let's just go out there and play and have fun.
23 minutes of like going through a spreadsheet. And I was just like, but I feel like we could all just
Just do it.
Start streaming and we'll be
We'll be
I
fine.
feel like we're gonna be fine. Dave Rosowski's here. I feel like we're gonna be fine, right? Like this won't be bad.
I think we're all skilled enough that it's gonna be fine. Nobody in the audience is like calling into the show to stop it to say like, well, you're not technically doing the Laurent that we had learned.
I was promised
the Laurent.
Yeah, I was promised a deconstructive flower and I didn't get it. So I want my money back.
I think, but I mean, you play in a similar mindset that I do, in the sense of like, I don't know, let's just go out and have fun. And like, we have enough skills in our belt that like, we'll be fine. And if we decided the show's gonna start with 3 scenes and then it turns into a mono scene, or okay, like we have a somewhat of an idea, but it's gonna change. So let's just go.
I mean, I think like my philosophy is it's improv and it can be anything.
Yeah.
It can be anything. So shouldn't we allow it to be anything? And like, as a student, I wanted to learn as much as possible. Like I want to learn every way there possibly is to play, so that at any given time, I've got all of those tools. And at the end of the day, you probably don't use them. It's just like, let's just be people in a room. Or maybe you use 40 of them because that's what you're inspired to do in that moment. But I do believe that like improv can be anything, and it should be for anyone who wants it. Like for anyone who wants to do it. Like, why do we put up so many walls around like, but Harold is the best way and short form is dumb, and like musical improv makes me want to stab myself, and I'm like, I love it all, I'll do any of it.
I think we humans like to complicate things.
Yeah.
Humans like to discover something. It's like, well, those 2 words, it's not that simple. And it's like, no, it is. It is that like make your partner agree to what they're doing and add to, and then we go, well, but what's the one right way? And it's like, this is the right way. Or like I describe it as like, improv's a tiny, 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 tiny club.
Yes.
And then people want to be in that tiny, 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 tiny club, but then they want to get a tinier club inside the tiny club, and then a really tinier club inside that tiny club. And it's like, you are going to have so much more fun if you just go into a situation saying like, wow, I can't wait to play with you. This is going to be fun. And you're doing that thing. And if I'm following, I don't need to learn like, you can be at the end of a show and have followed what's going on and done a form you had never done before, because you're just listening and following. So like, let's go with that.
Isn't that the fun of it? Like,
no, the fun is being right. That's the fun.
I see. Okay, well, that's fine too. We used to host a college improv, like tournament every year with like classes, and like it was more like a convention, and we would do this like panel every year where college kids could ask, professional improvisers. I will never not use air quotes when I say that. Ask us questions like, how do you get started as a professional improviser? You just play. But anyway, every year it would turn into like, well, we can all agree that like long form is like, like more challenging and like a higher art. And I have a friend who every year would say, here's the thing, none of us are cool.
Yes.
None of us.
Yes.
What we do is not cool. It's not. So if you think that by saying I do long form, that makes you the king of cool, you're still just the king of cool. Like, nobody cares. And when you try to describe this to anyone who doesn't do this, they do not care. And you just sound nerdier than they already thought you were. So like, let go of it.
Their eyes gloss over.
Right.
I really laugh when somebody comes on stage and goes, okay, what we're going to do is, it's called long form improvisation. The audience is like, I don't care. I didn't come here for that math. I came here because I think it's stand up. First off, I think it's stand up.
I've made a mistake.
Or I work with Steve.
Yeah.
He's talked about this for 18 months. And I'm like, I'm going to get it over with. I'm going to come see this.
Best case scenario, I read in the arts section of the paper that this would be fun to do this weekend. That's best case scenario. They still don't know what it is, but they somehow were motivated to buy a ticket.
Yes, and you've been explaining the show for 5 minutes, so that's 5 minutes not of fun.
That they paid for.
Which I paid for. You asked for a suggestion. I don't understand what you've been doing for 30 minutes. It has nothing to do with that suggestion I gave, which I was excited to give, but you were upset at me for giving the suggestion when you just asked for a suggestion. I thought pineapple.
No, not that one. Not that one. Okay, keep them. No, not that one. Yeah, keep shouting them out. Why would I shout it out when you just told me it was terrible?
Yeah, you've rejected me. And it's a good reminder to be like, we're all nerds. We're nerds. This is the thing we nerd out about. People nerd out about Dungeons and Dragons or church or music. We nerd out about pretending we're drinking out of a coffee mug that's not there. That's
right.
nerdy.
And then I have to, when I walk off stage, I have to put it down, because if I don't, I will not sleep tonight, Jay. I need to put my fake coffee mug down. Yeah, I think like we don't have enough, which is hilarious, but we don't have enough humility about what we do, which is hilarious given what we do. And like, I think the moments that we were talking about earlier were like, you have to show up at that elementary school at 8:30 a.m. or go to that corporate gig and no one wants you there. I think those are like so important. When we were building a show for families, a family show, if you will. And there was one week where literally one family was in the audience. So like the theater holds 125 people, one lone dad and 2 kids in the audience. And like the format of the show was to come out beforehand as the cast and like get to know the audience so we could like pull from it during the show. So like 6 super excited, dressed in bright colors, improvisers come jogging out before the show. There's one dad and 2 kids. I'm
recently divorced and I didn't know where to bring my kids. We went to McDonald's earlier. I thought this would be a chance for me to not talk to anyone right now.
Yep. You are not wrong. So we dance up and we're like, hey, how's it going? And the kids are immediately like walling off and like getting smaller. And the dad's looking around panicky and everyone's like, hey, how's it going? So like, where are you guys from? And finally I just was like, so here's the thing. You're the only family here, quite obviously. We would be really happy to do a show just for you. And like, we'll make it awesome and it won't be weird and we won't dance in your face anymore. Or we could give you your money back and give you tickets to come back another time with your children when it might be a slightly more enjoyable experience. And the look of relief on his face of like, oh, thank God. And then he was like, it's just like, this is my first weekend with them, like by myself. And like, I promised them that like, we'd have a really good time, but like, honestly, like, I don't want to have to be the bad guy and like, take them out of here. And I was like, yep. So it's on me. Like, let's just, hi, I'm Deana. We're actually not going to do the show today, but I would love to have you come back and like, here's some like Skittles or whatever we had at the snack bar. Like this poor man, like I just.
But that's because you understand, like you, Deana, understand a producer mentality too of like, hey, y'all, go back to the green room, actors, great work. I'm going to be vulnerable with you right now, which in a way, it's like, I get it. I've been that guy where it's like, we're still doing a show. And it's like, I'm not reading the room really well. And then like shift gears and go, hey, here's a couple options. We want you to come back. We understand the situation. We're not going to power through it. So let's just talk to you as a human being.
Right. Let's not perform at you for an hour. Oh.
And then some actor in the group is like, oh, it's great being divorced. And you're like, don't do a scene about divorce, dude. Don't do the divorce scene.
Yeah. We literally had a week where as the family show picked up momentum, lots of people were coming. And so we had a family reach out and they were like, we're going to bring our son. We're getting a few days outside of the hospital.
Oh,
He's got cancer. And the only thing I wanted out of people was can we just not say cancer? Because we never do. So that should be easy. But then just like the mac and cheese,
it comes out.
Oh my God, like multiple times during the show. And I was like, we had already, like, they already didn't pay to get in because we comped them, but like, I don't know what to give this family to ever make this okay.
Nothing. There's nothing. There's not a thing you can do. You can't, I feel like you can't even, the apology falls flat. Even an apology, it's like, we told you. We trusted you. There was a group from Iowa that went up to do a benefit at a dog camp. And the only reason I know about this is years later, I had gone to that dog camp and talked to somebody and they're like, what do you do? It was the owner or the person who ran the camp. I go, oh, I'm an improviser. They go, oh, have you heard of this theater? And it was IO. And I go, oh, I used to work there a long time ago. They go, oh, but we brought them up here and they did like a herald. They're like, she goes, they did like a herald. And it was about like killing dogs and dogs were awful at a dog camp. And it was like, oh, and I went, on behalf of improvisers, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah.
But it is those, there are those shows where you're like, just don't do this. And then it comes out and you're like, why? Was I better off not saying anything? Or would it come off anyway?
I mean, to be fair, most of my moments teaching improv, performing improv, rehearsing improv have been joyful and collaborative and not awful. So I'm not sure why. And very professional. So I don't mean to imply that that improv is the worst and no one should ever do it or buy it.
No, these are the fun stories that when veteran performers get together, it's like, what is the show you did? And you're like, oh, I did this show. I was a part of this show. And it takes on a special meaning when you transition to being the producer of this or the person in charge. And it gets back to that moment of like, there's so many moving parts. And what you don't want is you don't want to be a part of that show that your name is behind.
Yeah.
Like, why did you make that? Everything was going well. And then that one move happened and you're like, this isn't the comedy club. This is a corporate environment. But so that's all this is. That's all we're talking about, folks.
Yeah. Someday I will tell you the ultimate, what I feel like is my ultimate improv horror story. It's long. So we'll save that nugget for another day. The key word is Foxwoods Casino.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Let that be a little teaser for another day.
Well, where can people find, if they want to connect with you, if they want to bring you on as a facilitator, because you're a teacher, facilitator, performer, what's the best way they can do that?
Hit me up on Facebook. I do have a website. It's deanacriess.com, but my name is impossible to spell, Criess. But just go to Facebook and find me. I'm happy to make improv friends all the time.
Oh, well, you are one of my favorites to play with. You have such a great style. I really dig it. And whether it's in person, virtual, whatever it is, can't wait to play with you again, my friend.
Someday we will be in the same room and it'll be delightful.
All right. Have a great one. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jay.
I'll see you like maybe next at Margot's thing.
Yeah, next week. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.